I was sitting in a cafe after work, tired but happy. A family holiday was coming soon, and I was already mentally packing my bags, imagining how I would finally see my parents, younger brother, aunt, uncle, the whole family together. I worked in another city, far from home, but every year I tried to come to this holiday. It was a tradition. Everyone would gather at a big table, joke, remember old stories. I had been waiting for this moment all year. The phone vibrated. A message from my mother. "Honey, we are not having a holiday this year. There is little money, and no one will be able to get together." I frowned. How so? My family, and I had been planning this day for several months. I even took a vacation in advance and bought tickets. But if they were really experiencing financial difficulties, I understood. I knew how difficult it could be. I quickly typed a response. "Mom, it's okay. Let me help. I can pay for some of the expenses so that we can get together like always." A couple of minutes later, I received a reply. "Don't worry, dear. We just decided to take a break this year. The family understands. Everyone agrees. You take a rest yourself. Don't waste money." Something inside me clenched unpleasantly. I was sure that my family wouldn't cancel the holiday without a good reason. If my mother said so, then everyone really decided not to get together. I sighed heavily and closed the chat. Well, this year the holiday will pass without me. I couldn't even imagine how much they lied to me. A week passed. I tried to distract myself with work, convincing myself that the cancellation of a family holiday was not the end of the world. But something was bothering me. I was used to the fact that family always supports each other. Isn't that so? Since childhood, we gathered at the holiday table, discussed joys and problems. Could everything change just like that? I tried to push away the disturbing thoughts. But one evening, when I was wrapped in a blanket, mindlessly scrolling through Facebook, my heart suddenly sank. My cousin's post. "So happy to be with family. The best holiday." I squinted. What? My whole family was in the photo. Mom and Dad were smiling at the festively set table. Brother, uncle, aunt, cousins. Everyone who had to cancel the trip. They were having fun, raising toasts, eating favorite family dishes. They lied to me. My chest went cold. Why? Why did they say they canceled the party if it was still happening? Why hide it? Why exactly wasn't I there? I couldn't believe it. My eyes were burning, my chest was growing heavy. It wasn't a mistake, not a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate deception. They themselves decided that I shouldn't be there. I abruptly turned off my phone. I was thrown out of a family celebration. But why? And I intended to find out. I couldn't breathe. Did they really do that? I opened the photo again and took in every detail. The family table, filled with favorite dishes, the ones my mom always made for the holidays. My dad laughing with my uncle, my brother with a piece of cake my mom only baked for special occasions. And I was the only one missing. My hands were shaking as I scrolled to the comments. "Best night with the closest people," my aunt wrote. "So glad we're all together, like we should be," my cousin added. All together. My chest tightened like a truck had run over me. I couldn't just let it go. I called my mom. My heart was pounding so hard it was hitting my temples. I pressed the phone to my ear, expecting him to not pick up. But she answered. "Oh, darling, hi." Her voice was as warm as ever. "How are you?" I clenched my teeth. "You want to know how I'm doing?" Anger was boiling in my chest. "Mom, tell me one thing." I took a deep breath. "Why did you lie to me?" There was silence on the other end of the line. Mom hesitated. "I don't understand what you're talking about." "About the family celebration. About the one you supposedly rescheduled." My voice was shaking, but I didn't let myself break down. "I saw everything. The photos. The comments. You were all there. Without me." "Darling," her voice suddenly changed, became somehow cautious. "Please, let's not make a drama." I froze. Drama? I couldn't believe these words. "So you're really saying it's okay?" My voice broke. "You celebrated with your whole family, but you didn't invite me. And you call that not making a big deal?" Mom sighed heavily. "It was best for everyone." The world spun before my eyes. "What?" I almost dropped the phone. "Honey, just understand." Her voice shook. "Some things are better left uncomplicated." My fingers gripped the phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white. They didn't invite me on purpose. They thought it was for the best. But why? I had to know the truth. A fire was flaring up in my chest. I clutched the phone in my hand, feeling the veins in my temples pulsate with anger. What do you mean, Mom? My voice became cold, distant. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. It's hard to explain, she finally muttered. Then try. I couldn't hold back any longer. Explain to me why my family decided that I didn't deserve to be with you on this day. Mom sighed heavily. It's not that you don't deserve it. It's just that when we were discussing the holiday, your brother said that it was a family event, and he wanted to spend it only with the closest people that... It was like I was hit. Closest people? I asked, feeling an icy chill spreading inside me. So I'm not one of them? You're complicating things. Mom's voice sounded tired, as if she had thought through this conversation 1,000 times already. I felt the blood rushing in my ears. Are you saying that if I hadn't seen these photos myself, you wouldn't have told me the truth at all? Silence. There was more truth in that silence than in all the words she tried to find. He was always your favorite. I didn't try to hide the bitterness in my voice. You allowed him everything, even when we were kids. And now you've all decided that you'll be better without me? You're getting it all wrong. Her voice was shaking, but I didn't care anymore. I felt something breaking inside. No, Mom, I'm getting it right, I said in an icy voice. You made your choice. Now I'll make mine. I hung up before she could say a word. I sat in complete silence, staring at the dark screen of my phone. They really did betray me. But if they thought I would just accept it and get over it, they were sorely mistaken. I hadn't slept all night. My mother's words kept playing in my head, burning me from the inside out. They chose him. Again. How many times had I had to face this? How many times had I had to prove that I was worthy too? But this time, I wasn't going to just swallow the humiliation. I got out of bed, turned on my laptop, and opened the file with my financial statements. My work over the past few years had paid off. I had managed to save enough money to not depend on anyone. Unlike my brother, I was building my own life. I typed best places for a New Year's vacation into the search engine. Okay, if I'm not close enough to you, I muttered, scrolling through the options. Then it's time for me to stop pretending that I care about your opinion. Somewhere deep inside, there was still a glimmer of hope that one of them would realize their mistake, call and apologize. But the clock was ticking, the phone was silent. Instead, I saw a new photo uploaded to social media. They were sitting at a fancy holiday table, laughing, raising glasses. My brother, his wife, parents, distant relatives, everyone except me. I felt a wave of rage wash over me. Okay, they want to party without me? I'll throw my own, and it'll be much better than theirs. I chose one of the most expensive places I'd ever dreamed of going. Literally half an hour later, I had a room booked at a luxury hotel. I was going to show them that their betrayal didn't break me. I was going to do it in a way that would make them regret their choice. And if they didn't care where I was, I'd make them pay attention. As soon as the plane touched down, I felt a strange relief. Not only were the miles of travel behind me, but so were the expectations my family had placed on me for years. I stepped out of the airport and breathed in the warm, salty air. The palm trees swayed in the gentle breeze, and in the distance I could see the turquoise waters of the ocean. I was going to spend this vacation in one of the most luxurious resorts, where I would be taken care of better than my own family ever had. I wasted no time in going to my room, which was spacious, with panoramic windows and a private pool. Here I was going to prove to myself that I could be happy without their approval. I changed into a light dress, went down to the beach, and took a few pictures against the backdrop of a perfect sunset. After that, without thinking, I posted them on social media with the caption, "Sometimes the best thing you can do is choose yourself. The new year starts with me." I didn't think about them, didn't expect any reaction. But the reaction came faster than I expected. An hour later, my phone started blowing up with notifications. A message from my cousin. "Are you alone?" "Why?" From my aunt. "You look so gorgeous." "Where are you?" From an old school friend. "Wow, that's awesome. Is this the trip you've been dreaming about?" But the most interesting message came from my mother. "Are you serious? You went on vacation while we're here celebrating with the whole family?" I chuckled. "You said that this year's family vacation is canceled?" so I found a way to make it unforgettable. No response. But judging by the fact that my brother looked through all my stories and immediately deleted me from his subscription list, my little rebellion did not go unnoticed. Well, that was just the beginning. I had just finished breakfast on the terrace, enjoying the morning sun, when my phone vibrated. The screen showed Mom. I looked at the screen, smiled slightly and pressed end call. But a few seconds later the call came again. And again. And again. I put the phone on silent and continued my rest, anticipating that it would only get more interesting. However, after a few hours, my curiosity got the better of me. I decided to look at the messages. Mom, are you even normal? How could you do this? We were waiting for you, and you humiliated us like that. Dad, explain yourself. Are you seriously going there alone while the whole family is here? Your grandmother is simply shocked. Brother, you've always been selfish, but this is beyond the pale. Don't even think about coming back to us if you need anything. I scrolled through the messages, slowly, and laughed. Where were all these people when I waited for months for even one sign of attention? Where were they when I tried for the sake of my family, and they did not consider it necessary to even invite me into their circle? I took a deep breath and typed a reply. You decided to spend the holiday without me. I simply accepted your choice and organized my own rest. Isn't that fair? I sent it. The reaction was not long in coming. Mom, you act like an offended child. We wanted you to be with us too. Me. But for some reason you forgot to tell me about this. Silence. 10 minutes passed before I got another call. I brought the phone to my ear and heard my father's irritated voice. You want to destroy the family, right? Do you think you punish someone with this action? Punish? I answered calmly. No. I just finally chose myself. There was a pause. I knew this conversation would only get more and more intense, and maybe it would change everything. But this time I was ready. My father was silent on the phone, but I could hear his heavy breathing. He was clearly holding back his anger. So you think you did the right thing? He finally managed to squeeze out. Absolutely. I spoke calmly, even too calmly, so as not to irritate him even more. I just did what you all did before. I made a decision without explanation. We just wanted to spend the holiday in the family circle. Mom began, but I interrupted. And who am I? A neighbor? A friend from work? Why does your family circle exclude me? Silence again. That's not true, she finally said. You got it all wrong. I couldn't hold back my bitter laughter. Misunderstood? Okay, let's sort this out. Did you discuss the trip in my presence? No. Did you invite me? No. Did you even ask me if I wanted to go with you? We thought you were busy. Oh, you thought. I couldn't hide my sarcasm anymore. But you didn't think to call and ask? I heard my mother whisper something to my father, but he ignored her. Okay, you're right. Maybe we were wrong, he said, and it even seemed to me that he really thought so. But is that a reason to take revenge, so demonstratively? I exhaled sharply. You don't even understand now, do you? This isn't revenge. It's simple justice. You could have just talked to us. I snorted. Just like you could have talked to me before organizing a family vacation without me. But it was easier for you to decide for everyone as always. My father exhaled in irritation. Okay, so what now? Have you decided to turn your back on us? I paused. For now, I'm just enjoying a well-deserved rest. And then we'll see. I knew this conversation would hurt them, but for the first time in many years, I felt like an adult who could stand up for herself, not an offended girl. Mom sobbed. Dad clenched his teeth. You act like we did something terrible. I grinned, just for the first time feeling what I felt. There was a long pause. I hope you're pleased with yourself, my father said coldly. Very, I answered with a smile. For the first time in many years. And I hung up. But this conversation was far from over. After that conversation, I waited for a continuation. My father was too proud to leave everything as it was, and my mother was too emotional to simply accept it. I was right. The next day I received a message. We're in your city. Let's meet. We need to talk. I stared at the screen. They decided to come. Why? To continue convincing me that I was wrong. To make amends with empty excuses once again. Anger boiled inside, but I couldn't deny. Part of me wanted to see them. Wanted to look into their eyes and understand if they were truly sorry or if this was just another attempt to control the situation. A couple of hours later, I was sitting in a cozy cafe, watching the entrance. My heart was beating a little faster than usual, but I kept myself in check. And then they walked in. Mom looked tired, with anxious folds on her forehead. My father, as always, held himself with dignity, but something in his posture had changed, as if he had lost some of his confidence. They came to my table and sat down opposite me. "Hello," my mother said, smiling uncertainly. I nodded silently. There was an awkward silence. "We made a mistake," my father said unexpectedly. I raised my eyebrows in surprise. I had expected anything but this. "We shouldn't have done this," he continued. "You shouldn't have been left out." I looked at my mother, who nodded, clasping her hands in her lap. We thought we were doing the right thing, but we realized how it looked from the outside. I was silent, trying to sort out my feelings. It was too easy. They admitted their guilt too easily. "What changed?" I asked. My father sighed. "You were always part of the family," he said, "and we don't want to lose you." I felt my heart clench. "I don't believe you," I answered honestly. "If it weren't for my trip, you'd still think you did the right thing." They looked at each other. "Maybe," Mom sighed. "But we were scared. We saw that you could just leave. And that made us think." I thought about it. It wasn't a perfect apology. They weren't going to kneel or beg for forgiveness in tears. But there was sincerity in their voices. I took a sip of coffee and looked up at them. "Okay," I said. "Let's see how you're going to fix this." I wasn't going to just accept their apology. Forgiveness isn't a gift that can be handed out on demand. It's a process that I have to be confident in. I set my coffee cup down on the table and crossed my arms over my chest. "Fix it? I wonder how." My mother looked confused, and my father frowned. "We don't want you to feel rejected," she said carefully. I nodded. "Then let's figure out what exactly you're going to do." I paused before continuing. "If you want to regain my trust, you'll have to prove it." They exchanged glances. "What do you mean?" my father asked. I looked him straight in the eye. "Let's start with the fact that I need assurances. Words are just sounds. I need actions." I took out my phone and placed it on the table. "For example, are you willing to admit your mistake in front of the whole family?" Mom tensed up. "You want us to what?" "To tell everyone that you treated me unfairly," I answered calmly. "That my role in the family was no less important than anyone else's." Father winced. That's fair," I interrupted him. "If you're truly sorry, then admit it publicly." They fell silent. I gave them time to think. "The second point," I continued, "I don't want our meeting to be a mere formality. If you want me to be a part of your life again, you'll have to earn it." Father exhaled heavily. "And how exactly?" I leaned forward. "Let's start small. Let's see how much compromise you're willing to make. I'll invite you to my place in a week. Will you come?" Mom pressed her lips together, but nodded. "Of course," she said. "Okay." I leaned back in my chair. "This is going to be a test. I want to see how far you're willing to go." They didn't look pleased, but they agreed. I finished my coffee and stood up. "Then I'll see you in a week." I turned and walked away, leaving them sitting at the table. Now all that was left was to wait. The week flew by. I wasn't looking forward to this dinner, but it was supposed to be a test. If my parents really wanted to mend our relationship, they had to show it in action. I cooked dinner, choosing simple but favorite dishes. I wanted to see if they could appreciate my efforts the way they once admired my brother's successes. At the appointed time, I heard the doorbell ring. Taking a deep breath, I opened it. My mom and dad were standing at the threshold. But they were not alone. He was standing next to them. My brother. I slowly looked up, trying to understand what was happening. "Are you serious?" I asked my parents coldly. Mom smiled guiltily. "He wants to fix everything, too." I looked at my brother. He stood with his usual smug expression, as if he had invited me, and not the other way around. "I don't think I invited you," I said, crossing my arms over my chest. He shrugged. "Isn't it stupid to hold grudges? We're family." I felt anger boiling inside me. "Family? I wonder if you called me family when I was surviving on my own." My brother rolled his eyes. "Well, we all make mistakes." I looked at my parents. "So that's it." My voice was shaking. You just decided to bring him without even asking me? They exchanged glances. We thought. I smiled bitterly. Yeah, that's the whole point. You always think for me. I turned and walked to the table. Since you're here, sit down. But I warn you, I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen. We sat down at the table, and I began to serve food. The silence was tense. My brother was the first to break it. I have to admit, you've got it pretty good. I raised an eyebrow. Unlike you. He clenched his jaw. I don't need handouts. I chuckled. Really? Who's sitting at my table eating my food? He frowned, but didn't answer. My mother quickly intervened. Let's not fight. I put my fork down. Okay, then let's get this straight. What did you come here for? My father looked at me with a heavy expression. We want to fix this. I cocked my head. All of it? Or just the part where you're comfortable with me having money and stability now? They were silent. I sighed. You know what? Let's do it this way. If you really want to fix our relationship, show me. My brother chuckled. And how do you imagine that? I leaned forward. Give me a reason to believe you. There was silence. I wasn't going to make it easy for them. I set my glass down on the table, looking at each of them carefully. They were waiting for me to speak. Okay, I said, leaning forward a little. You want to fix this? Prove to me that I'm really important to you, and not just a convenient wallet. My brother rolled his eyes. Oh, here we go. I pretended not to hear. I'm offering you a simple deal. My father frowned. A deal. I nodded. If you really want to improve your relationship with me, I want to see some effort. It doesn't have to be anything out of the ordinary. Just start treating me like an equal. My mother nodded too quickly, as if she'd already agreed. Of course. But I knew them. Then here are my conditions, I said calmly. First, you must stop putting my brother above me. My brother immediately pursed his lips. Second, you have to admit that you treated me unfairly. Father crossed his arms over his chest. And how do you imagine that? I held his gaze. Elementary. You look me in the eye and say, we were wrong. There was silence. Mom looked away. Dad frowned, and my brother just curled his lips into a smirk. Seriously? He chuckled. You want them to admit that they were wrong? I nodded. Yes. Exactly. Father pinched the bridge of his nose. Look, maybe we shouldn't cling to the past? I shook my head slowly. No. If we're going to move on, you should at least admit the truth once. Mom clasped her hands in her lap. Darling, well. I looked at her coldly. You threw me away like an unnecessary thing. And now you've come back when you're sick. Do you even understand what you've done? She was silent. I looked at my father. So what? Are you ready to do this? Or should I consider our conversation over? He sighed heavily, then looked me straight in the eyes. We were wrong. I felt something inside me flutter. Mom said a little later, but also, we really were wrong. I looked around at them. Good. You have a chance to prove that you care. Let's see if you take advantage of it. My brother sighed loudly. Well, is the show over? Can I eat? I grinned. Of course. But here's the question. Are you ready to admit that you were wrong too? He froze. Mom and Dad looked at him. Well, I asked. Brother rolled his eyes and nervously scratched the back of his head. Oh my God, are you serious? Is this all that important to you? I narrowed my eyes, crossing my arms over my chest. Yeah, it is. Mom whispered softly to him. Son, just tell me so it all works out. Dad looked at him suggestively. Brother sighed dramatically, leaned forward and grinned. Okay, fine. I was wrong to enjoy life while you toiled. I was wrong to live in a house that should have been yours. I was wrong to, well, never mind. You just want to hear those words, right? Well, enjoy them. I looked at him and knew there was no sincerity there. You're not even trying. He rolled his eyes again. You want me to kneel? I shook my head. No, I just want you to understand that because of you I lost my family. He crossed his arms and slumped in his chair. Nobody made you leave. It was your choice. I froze. Mom looked down, and Dad nervously tapped his fingers on the table. Nobody made me? I asked quietly. My brother shrugged. Well, we didn't chase you out of the house with pitchforks. I took a slow breath. Really? So when you said I wasn't needed anymore, it wasn't an expulsion. He opened his mouth, but fell silent. I continued. When you chose him over me, it was my choice. Mom looked nervously at my brother. Son, just say you're sorry. My brother chuckled. What do you want, huh? For me to repent and say that you were more important? I held his gaze. No, I don't need you to lie. I just want you to understand that your life turned out this way because you never took responsibility for your actions. Your parents always made decisions for you. They threw me out so that you would be comfortable. And now what? They're homeless, and you? He winced. It's none of your business. Yeah. Then why are you here? He froze. I grinned. You came here because you realize that this time you won't be saved. Your parents can't help you themselves, and you will finally have to answer for your mistakes. I got up from the table. You can stay here for a couple of days until you find a place to live. But don't expect anything more from me. Mom gasped. My daughter. I'm not your daughter when it's not in your interests, I answered coldly. My father looked down. We were wrong. I was already heading for the exit when I heard my brother's voice. Are you really going to leave us? I froze. I turned around and looked at him. And you left me 7 years ago. I turned around and left without looking back. At home, I sat in the dark for a long time, looking out the window. The city lived its own life. People rushed about their business, and my head was in complete chaos. I achieved everything myself, without their help, without support. They betrayed me, but now they stand on my doorstep, waiting for salvation. I thought that I would see them broken and feel satisfied. But no, the pain of betrayal did not go away, but I did not want to be their judge anymore. Early in the morning, I received a message from my mother. Forgive us. If you do not want to see us, we will understand. We are leaving. Brother is trying to find a job. If one day you can forgive us, we will wait. I reread these lines several times. My soul was empty. An hour later, I arrived at the hotel where they were staying. I went into the lobby. Brother was sitting in the corner, staring at his phone. Father was drinking cheap coffee. Mom raised her head and flinched when she saw me. You came? I nodded. I paid for your accommodation for 2 weeks. That's enough time to find a job and a place to live. Mom covered her mouth with her hand. Thank you, dear. Dad looked stunned. My brother slowly raised his head. Are you serious? I looked at him coldly. This is the last time I interfere in your life. He opened his mouth, but I had already turned to leave. Mom rushed to me. We will never ask you again. But maybe someday we can just have tea together? I looked into her eyes, and for the first time in many years, I saw sincere guilt there. I nodded silently, not because I forgave, but because now I didn't care. I turned and left. Outside, I took a deep breath. The world became easier, and now I was finally free.